In this video, we're going to learn about a new feature of Blazor 4.7, and that is the get and set modifiers. The idea is the following. You know that we can use data binding in Blazor, which means that we can synchronize a variable and a control like a text box. And now with the get and set modifiers, we can have more control so that we can execute a function when we are doing data binding. A use case of this would be, for example, if we want to have the text of a text box to always be in uppercase. Let's see that. Let's implement that. Let's see that we're going to create a Blazor WebAssembly app in .NET 7, and let's click on create. And now let's go to the Solution Explorer. Let's go to Pages. I'll go to the index component. I will clean this up a little bit. And now I will create an input type text. I'll close it here. Then I'll say code. I want to do some data binding so that whatever I write here, it gets synchronized with a variable. So private string, I'll say passport, because passports are supposed to be in uppercase. So by default, this is going to be a string empty. Now I will use normal data binding first before we use the get and set modifiers. So let me say here passport. Now this means that we are synchronizing whatever I put into this text box into this variable that I have here. So for example, I can come here and say paragraph, and then I'll say passport, and I'll just say passport so that we can write the passport that is in here in this input type text. So let me press Ctrl F5 to run our application, and let's see what we got. As you may know, I can write anything here like RD123. Let's pretend that is a passport. And if I click outside of the text box, we're going to get the value here because we're synchronizing the content of this text box with the passport variable. Now, as you can see, I'm allowed to write this in lowercase, but I don't want that. I want to have this text in uppercase always. So how can we do that? Well, with the new feature of get and set modifiers, that is very easy. So first what I need to do is to say here get, because I need to say what is going to be the value of this text box, and it is going to be this passport variable. And then after that, I can say bind set. And then in here, I will put a function that I want to execute. That is the one that is going to take the text of the text box and make it uppercase. Now, sadly, there is a temporal error in .NET in which it doesn't recognize this bind set as a valid Blazor code. So this is why you are getting these red squiggly lines here. Microsoft is aware of this and it is working on a solution. But for now, we have to tolerate these red squiggly lines. The code will still work. It is on Microsoft to work on the compiler to fix this. So probably maybe in the future, when you are seeing this video, you won't have this error here and here. But for now, let's just move on. So let's come here and I'll say private task set async string value. This is the function that I want to execute when I write on this text box. Now what I want to do is to say passport equal to value to uppercase or to upper. And that's it. With this, we're good to go. But notice something. Notice two things. The first one is that we have to use them in pairs, which means that if I want to use bind set, I have to use bind get. And secondly, if I'm using get and set in this way, then in here, in this set async method, I have to be the one to update the variable that we're using, in this case, the passport variable. And now before we can test this, we have to return task completed task. And now we can compile our application, and let's come back here. And let's see that I can write RD123, and we have RD123 in uppercase. Now, as you may have noticed, I was able to write RD in lowercase, and then after I click outside of the text box is that we get it in uppercase. But maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want to have it instantaneously on uppercase. The reason why it is not working, the reason why I can write this is because data binding by default uses the change event, which means that it only gets fired after I unfocus the text box. So if I want to change that, I have to use another event, the onInput event. So let's do that. Let's come here. Let's say bind event, and instead of saying on change, I'll say on input, and this is going to make it so every time I type on the text box, this function is going to get executed, and therefore we're going to have the passport variable in uppercase. So let's see that. Let me compile. Let's come back here. Now I will try to write in lowercase, but it is not working anymore. I can only write in this text box using uppercase text. So as you can see, this new feature of Blazor 4.7 makes it really easy to customize what occurs when we do data binding. If you want to learn more about Blazor, please buy my Udemy course today. I also have courses on Entity Framework Core, building applications with React and ASP.NET Core, and more. Link with a discount to all of my courses in the description of this video. Thank you.